Money Strong podcast, the show designed to help you build real confidence and control of your money. My name is Dr. Bryan Foltice, and I am your host and financial coach that's here to help you ditch your fear and grow your wealth with purpose. Whether you're paying off debt, building up savings, or just trying to stress less about money. If you find this episode helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share it with somebody who's ready to get money strong too. Let's jump in to today's episode. Have you ever wondered why you know the right behavior to do with your finances, but then still don't do it? Well, welcome to the world of financial decision making. And we're going to understand in this video why we make the decisions that we do, why we behave the way we behave. And then at the end, we're going to talk about how we can improve our behaviors and our decision making. Now, let's go ahead and jump straight into this. This is changing our financial behavior, understanding it first, changing it afterwards. And this is all a part of our series about financial well-being and how we have looked at our money motivations, our money memories. We've looked at what it means to be financially well and how that affects all of the different areas of our lives, how it can either improve our overall well-being or how it can not improve or decrease our overall well-being. All right, so why is this so hard to change? Well, like anything, we have what we should do. We have our disposition on what we should do. We know what's right, and we struggle to follow through with it. We know that we're supposed to be eating well all the time. We know we're supposed to be working out all the time. We're not supposed to be on our phones as much. Why do we still struggle to follow through? It's the same thing. It's basically just looking at our habits, trying to understand why we do what we do, and then assessing whether or not it makes sense to change these habits. So financial behaviors, we struggle with these. These can be financial habits that we have and automatic routines. So that's the first one. Some of these habits that we have, whether it's going out to lunch when you're working every day or going out on the weekends. These habits that we have that are our defaults, just without thinking, we just go and do it. These are the things that are really hard to change especially without a lot of deliberate actions around it. We also have some emotions. So if we're stressed, if we feel fear, shame, what do we do? Where do we run to? Do we run to Amazon, start filling up our cart with stuff? What about it? Even if we're excited, if we get amped up on something, we can still make some of these emotional decisions and make a big purchase. So if you get a extra money coming in or your tax refund coming in, this is our emotion that we get that will drive us into buying that big screen TV or something that we don't necessarily need or will look back on as an emotional decision. Another behavior is also shaped by our environment that we're in. And of course, if we're in the United States, we do not have to look very far to see the defaults and financial behaviors all around us show us that debt is the way to go. It doesn't matter. Buy that new car. You can put it on a loan. Buy that whatever. Go on that trip. Put it on your credit card. You'll pay it off later. No big deal. Buy a biggest house as you possibly can, and don't worry about having to pay it back. So again, you can see our financial behavior is shaped by some of our habits, our emotions, and our environment. Same thing in the environment. If you look on social media, you can see some of this. It's going to be shaped by the people who we're surrounded by, who we're talking to and working with, that are going to shape these beliefs. And so the real change is when we start to identify our own habits and behaviors and then making a deliberate attempt to change it. So once again, when we're taking a look at these, I want you to identify one thing, maybe two, but one thing to assess and change. So for you, that's going to be the first thing that pops into your mind. Go, I know that's exactly, this is it. Usually I know when I hear somebody ask me that, first thing that pops into my mind is usually the right one. And we're not going to do 100 new habits or even 10 new habits, because you know what will happen when that happens. 0 habits will change. We're going to look at one thing to change. To understand that, we're going to look at the 5-step process that we have in changing our behavior. And I really wish this, and this is how I always identified behavior change, as a 1-step process. You are doing the wrong thing. I want you to do it right. Change it. You're welcome. And in my little brain, that made so much sense, and it never worked. And I realized, okay, let's take a step back. What goes into the process of a behavior? And how does this all work? And I started listening. I know it's not exactly the framework that psychology uses to change behavior. So this is a variation of it. What really resonated with me is I heard he calls him, it's Dr. Joe Dispenza, and he does a lot of this neuroscience-ish kind of stuff like that. And I went down a rabbit hole of him a while ago. This was like last year. And he does all these talks and talks about neuroscience, and he talks about reshaping and rewiring the brain, which I really found interesting. And he talks about, the thousands of people that they've tested and they know. And so, of course, I'm an academic. I go to Google Scholar, start looking at, oh shit, like, cool. What kind of publications is he getting? And it's like, and he's really always saying like Dr. Joe Dispenza. And I was like, oh man, that's awesome. And so I was a little bit disheartened when I realized that there's no evidence of any of of this research that's out there as compelling as he makes it sound like. And even more unfortunate is that he has a doctorate in fucking chiropractic or something like that. And so I thought he was like, real good neuroscience doctor, and was like, oh, okay. Nevertheless, I don't mean it as a personal jab or anything. I'm just saying that I did get this idea from the step process. Okay. So just take it for what it's worth. Didn't mean any negativity, except for I moved my family 5,000 miles away and actually went to a real research school for 5 years, with uncertainty of whether or not I would finish for those 5 years with my family. I'm a fucking doctor, okay? So I got my doctorate in finance. You can look me up on Google Scholar. There's 18, 20 publications right now. Anyway, I'll stand down. Maybe we edit this out. I don't know. Changing behavior, 5-step process here. Okay. So when I think about the process, first, we have a belief. We have about whatever. And this is why we talked about our memories. This is why we talked about our foundational beliefs of money. We'll have a belief that we have. That will lead to a thought. Belief leads to a thought. We use those beliefs to shape our thoughts around that. And we think about, should I do this or should I not? And that leads us to step 3. That's our decision. It leads us to our decision. So again, it's based off of beliefs, brings us to this moment where we have these thoughts, and the thoughts lead us to our decision. Should I do this? Should I not? And then step 4 is the behavior. And that's just the rolling out of the decision. We've made our decision. We're rolling it out. That's the behavior. And then the behavior will give us an experience. It'll give us some sort of feeling, some sort of experience. And we use that experience to reconfirm most of the time our belief. Then we just reload the belief, and we go down the chain again. Belief, thought, decision, behavior, action. And so when we think about how that loop works, and we're doing this thousands of times, Dr. Joe says 60 to 70,000 times or thoughts a day will go through our minds. So we're constantly going through this. And so when we think about, I want to change step 4, I want to change my behavior, we can't just change step 4 because we realize now it's a series. So what we're going to do is we're going to go all the way to the top here. And we're going to look at step 1, work on changing that behavior. We're going to work on changing that belief and then let the beliefs reshape our thoughts. With those new thoughts, we can then make new decisions, and then our behaviors are just going to, our different behaviors or our change behaviors are just going to be shaped by those new decisions that we're making. And that is going to change this experience that we have, and we need to use that to reaffirm our new belief. Anybody still with me? Am I getting weird on you? This was really interesting for me because I wanted to think about this. Just we can use this in finance. We could use this in any bad habits that we have in our world. And so what we need to do in order to change these behaviors, okay, we're going to deal with the beliefs here. And first one is, are we aware of our beliefs in whatever? So this comes back to our awareness of our own memories. What do we need to change? What are our true beliefs about money and what it can do for us? If I believe that money is the root of all evil, well, I don't want it. I'm not going to seek it. I'm never going to have it because it's evil. I don't want it. That's for bad people. But if I believe that there's an abundance that comes from us, that we are God's highest form of creation, that we can lean into this abundance, that I am worthy, I am worthy of this abundance, that will then shape thoughts, decisions, and behaviors. So high level, but again, it starts with the awareness. Become aware, understanding a trigger. Okay? So a little bit adjacent to some of our beliefs, but sometimes when we have this trigger that happens with some of these automatic defaults, it basically just cuts the beliefs into the thoughts, decision, cuts the line basically, and just triggers us into our default decision behavior action. All right, so whether that's a spontaneous purchase, something triggers you and you're just like, I'm going to go buy it. I don't care. I'll pay for it later. Or if you are trying to change a habit of eating, or this guy drinking alcohol, sometimes you have to look back and go, what is the trigger? So if that is, I'm stressed out, I'm going to eat a bucket of ice cream. Or right here, friends, if you come home from a long day of work and you go, man, I just need to unwind, I'm ready to relax, glass of alcohol, glass of wine, an alcoholic drink of some sort, that's the key. And then I get that experience and I go, oh, okay, yep, that's the shit, that's the thing. And you get into this habit where I don't even think about it. So in order to change these things, you got to go back up the line and go, man, I don't need this. You change your belief, but then you also recognize when that trigger comes and that stress happens, where do you go? Do you automatically move down into the behavior? Or can you stop it? So again, it's complicated to change these behaviors, but it's also important for change, and then with a dash of grace and mercy on yourself, understanding that if it doesn't happen right away, that it's okay. It happens to everybody. You just kind of, what do you do when you fail? You get back up and keep going. So next is you try to replace the behavior. So if you are changing your behavior, you want to try to replace it with something else. You have that trigger. Can you replace a new behavior into a positive one? And so maybe if you're stressed out at the end of the day, instead of that impulse purchase, can you find take a little bit of money and save it or invest it? Or if you're changing your habits, make a good drink decision or a positive, instead of taking a drink, I'm going to go do a meditation, or I'm going to eat a good food instead. And so that's been helpful too as well. When you have that trigger, you just replace it with something different. For me, it was grilling. If I wanted to grill, it was also connected with, hey, I'm going to have a drink while I grill. And all you do is you just make the mixed drink without the alcohol. Duh. So anyway, replace it or substitute it with a better habit. And then also make it easy for yourself. And this is where automation comes into play. If you're trying to pay yourself money at the end of the month to invest or to put into your savings or investing goals, do it at the beginning of the month when you get your paycheck. So essentially this is called pay yourself first. Do that first, and then you'll work with the rest of it. Same thing. This kind of ties in with making whatever your savings goal is an extra step or a little bit less available to you. Because if you keep it in your checking account and say, well, I'll get to it later, I'll move it, that usually gets depleted. If not everything, at least a chunk of it will get depleted over time, and then you swipe over the rest. You're paying yourself last on a lot of this stuff. It's the same thing in other habits as well, that if you don't want to drink, don't keep it in your house. You don't want to eat shitty foods, don't keep shitty foods in your pantry. So a lot of these things make sense, but just again, think about that. Keep it easy on yourself. Don't leave those temptations around. And then also make sure you track and reflect on this. As you're building your wealth, track your progress. And a lot of the times this is good, especially you're stepping in times of progress, keeping a perspective that it's not always going to be perfect, but you keep moving forward in the right direction. That is going to really reinforce those beliefs. Having that experience of seeing your account grow, seeing your physical improvements, if you're doing something else outside of finance, will reinforce those beliefs. And this reinforces these habits. So make sure you track, understanding that it's not always going to be perfect. In fact, I'm going to do an episode on spending that even myself, we get carried away sometimes. And the important thing is, well, what do you do about it? Do you just ignore it, let it go? Or do you kind of reassess, go, why did I do that? And move forward. So track and reflect. Make sure you are celebrating not just the big big goals that you hit, but the milestones along the way. So part of this goal setting that we have has the big goal, but then in the middle has the milestones that we need to celebrate and keep that momentum going. And then also understanding that kindness, be kind to yourself on these, that this is not about perfection. It's all about progress. So at the end of this whole module that we've been talking about for financial well-being, I always want us to remember it's all about moving in the right direction, not being perfect. And it's not always going to move in the right direction, but I want us to generally move that in the right direction. So progress over perfection are going to change our financial behaviors. So that's all it is for now. I hope it didn't sound too preachy. Just trying to get us to think about how we can change our financial behaviors, any behavior in that matter, and some of our habits, trying to figure out what's that one habit. I already told you mine, and hopefully this helps. Let me know if you need anything. Otherwise, I will see you on the next video where we talk more, more about our money beliefs. We'll talk to you later. Bye.